Hi, everybody. I'm Candid Stanisci of NLL Lacrosse Talk. Welcome to the Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate and leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV Sticks, Roku Sticks, and also on all smart TVs 2016 forward. Now on Lacrosse Talk, NLL, and others, our co-host Gary Groob, and our very special guest, Joe Hiltz, coach of the Oshawa Outlaws and commissioner of the Ontario Series Senior B League. Welcome to the program.
Thanks. Well, good to be here.
So we've got Joe on the move. He's always on the move, apparently. Okay, Joe.
Yes,
Here's an easy question. It's the same one we ask everybody every week, every time we do this show, and it is, how did you first pick up the game of lacrosse? What brought you to it?
I really don't know. I started playing when I was 4. My dad didn't play lacrosse. A couple of my uncles in the Crow family, they played. But other than that, was there, and mom and dad put me and my brother in. Never looked back from there.
Now, when it comes to progressing, you go from being a player to being involved in management. What moved you into that direction?
I think it was my knee injury that really turned the channel for me. I was in Montreal playing for the Express, 5 games in, tore my ACL, fully recovered from the knee injury. But at the same time, I had and Josh, so I turned into reffing, jumping on an executive, which which from there on, it was like, not looking back.
Gary, go ahead.
Well, you started out with the Peterborough organization. We've had a number of guys on who have been from the organization, including Johnny Davis and John Grant Sr. Let's talk about you starting out with that organization. What made it so special, and what got you so hooked on the game being with the organization?
Playing in Peterborough was like, everybody when I was growing up. You walk down the street, everybody has a stick in their hand. You're playing every day. You're down the box playing on weekends or after school. It was just a lacrosse community from when I first started, even today. We're a little busier nowadays with a lot of stuff going on, but at the same time, we're playing and excited to play lacrosse.
One of the things that stands out to me going to Peterborough and going to the games there is it's true. All day long, everybody's talking lacrosse. It's first and foremost, but all the legends are there and very accessible and ready and willing to answer and have a beer with everybody. It's terrific. Just the whole culture community in its own right is different than most communities that I've been in.
We have many generations of lacrosse players that are still around, from Bobby Allen, Jimmy Johnson, the Wassons, to even like Jamie Back, guys like that. My age, we're here. We always talk lacrosse, and if anybody, if we don't have the answer, we find it from somebody that does. A lot of great legends here. Like you said, you go to the game and you go to the press box and they're sitting there, Johnny Davis Sr. sitting there, and there's just everybody, and just be helpful and there for the game of lacrosse.
Right. So let's talk a bit about your junior career. 3 Minto Cups in four visits. That's pretty impressive. And beating the Gates 2 out of 3
Yeah.
times is also impressive.
Yeah, you know what? It was. We had a good group of guys that night when we came into to junior A. We graduated midget with 13 year junior, which gave us a good base. And with that, we had to jump in with, and they guided us year one. You know, we ended up in the finals against Whippy and Joey Newendike, and you know they beat us 4 straight on his. We learned a lot. We learned a lot that year. Growing together as a team, and it was just one of those things where our junior was a very close community team. We did everything together, and everything. We did everything. We just hung out together. We traveled together.
Joey Newendike, you're referring to as the former Calgary Flame and Toronto Maple Leaf, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think he was a better lacrosse player though than he was hockey.
Yeah, that's where his roots were.
You know what? He was just a great athlete. Much do it all. That's how good he was.
Him, Brian Bellows, Gary Roberts, all fantastic lacrosse players.
Doug Favell,
if they could make money in lacrosse, they would have been lacrosse guys their whole life for sure. I agree.
Oh, I agree too. Time, you know what? It's about getting to the NHL. It's about the money and all that. Totally get it.
Sure. So you got that opportunity to play against the Gates throughout that. What was that like? You know, we've heard a number of people talk about it. What was it like to play against them as they were just forming to what they were going to be?
You know what? They were my first time I ever played Pee Wee Nationals in Peterborough, where they beat us and they ended up winning the Nationals that year. The phenomenons. Every day they played together. To watch, it was a treat to play with them at the same time. Later to play with Gary and Paul both, but
right.
Playing against them was basically your defense had to do their job, and you just had to outscore them,
which was no easy feat.
One's putting up 4, one's putting up 5. That means you got to get at least 10.
Work's cut out for you.
Yeah.
Now, some of the coaches that you played for in junior, which I would assume helped shape you towards later life and your coaching career as well.
Yeah, you know what? When I first came to the junior league, John Martin were at the helm, and they were the two that were there, first 2 there, and went to 3 middle cups with them. They were top. You got Johnny Martin, who he's a good cop, and Dunner's the bad cop. But you didn't want to get Johnny mad, because if you got him mad, it wasn't a pretty sight. And
right.
then our 5th year, we had Mark Vitarelli came in, and we went on to win a Middle Cup that year in Peterborough against Richmond.
Mm-hmm. All right, so
I kicks at the can.
Mm-hmm. We move up into to your senior career, and you start with a bang there with a Rookie of the Year award.
Yeah, you know what? It was good. Head coach that year, and I came off not a bad year in junior, my 5th year, and he just told me to be me and just do it, just really play, and he had confidence in me, and and allowed me to be put pressure on me as a player,
right?
to perform. And when that happened, when coaches had that faith in you, just to go out and be you, and I seem to have a better.
You and the boys were doing something right, being in back-to-back Man Cups.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Man,
that would do it in the West, right? Out in the
Westminster, yeah.
Yeah,
that was with New Westminster.
Yeah. Yeah. Never won a middle cup though as a player.
Right.
Been to two, played in two, lost both to nations, and I finally got one helping out Six Nations back in, I think it was 18. I think it was 2018.
Right.
But never as a player.
No, you had a well, there's many other opportunities there in Peterborough for sure. Lots of
other trophies you can win.
Well, yeah, you know what? You're right. And you know what? There's only one winner at the end of the year. You know what? You pick and choose where you play. When I left to go out west, it was one of those things where at least my wife was pregnant with our first child. And you know what? New Westminster was like and moving there, I'd never regret going out there and leaving Peterborough to go play. But at the same time, when it was nice to come home and finish my career actually here in town.
Right. Now, you had a chance to. Well, actually, we had Rod Jensen on just after Peterborough won the fourth Man Cup, and he called himself the Buffalo Bills because he'd been to 4 Man Cups and lost all 4. So, pretty good company, I would say.
You're never alone.
Never alone. But you had a chance to go and play with the Detroit Turbos. Let's talk about that. This is a very storied franchise that I wish was still around because, man, I used to love watching Bandit Turbo games and Philadelphia and Detroit games. Incredible, rough games. The old MILL league.
I came in when the league changed to the NLL. I do believe when I played in Detroit, my brother came over from Buffalo after get the year before with Buffalo. It was awesome to play in Detroit. Real first taste of playing in the pro league. It was a good feel there. The arena was awesome to play in. Mm-hmm. Playing in the Joe Louis was awesome.
Right.
Fantastic. And not just at Buffalo and Philly, but Boston. The crowd is like absolutely crazy. And, back in that day, Boston fans don't do today, I'll tell you that.
Right. Yeah, you get a chance to play in all the storied arenas too. Boston Gardens, Spectrum, all these places that are just absolutely storied halls.
Yeah. It was Maple Leaf Gardens, played in Maple Leaf Gardens, played in the Spectrum, played in Nassau, played in Buffalo, which probably was my favorite arena to play in.
Right. It was loud.
For some reason, I just love playing there. Yeah. Then I played in Baltimore. Played out of the Baltimore arena, the Rochester. Then, I ended up going to Montreal, playing out of the Bell Center, which was also another.
Tell us more about Montreal.
In the old arena, didn't get to play in the old arena, but you know what, got to play in Montreal and people. It was exciting as well.
Well, when we had Dallas Elliott on, he was explaining also about the old barns, and unlike now where they're all kind of cookie cutter, it doesn't matter if you're in Philadelphia, St. Louis, Toronto, wherever. They're all the same dimensions, all the same spatial things and the lighting. And back then, each one was their own individual thing. You had the Boston Gardens, which was really confined. You had Montreal, which was a much wider rink. You had Toronto, which was also a less lengthy, less width-wise thing. So every team could gear their teams towards it. Talk about, that kind of thing and, just the psyche about going into another team's barn, and you'd have to change your game entirely for whatever surface you were playing.
Yeah, it all depends on what end you have, and depending on where you're running from, where you're running. You definitely have to change your game. Sometimes the corners, what it takes, but to me, it was just getting there and getting to those arenas and actually sitting in the arena and just taking back moments sometimes more than actually and remembering who played in the arena.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that was the biggest thing for me when I always go 2.5 hours early, 3 hours early, and sit in the crowd, just look around and admire the arena, especially. And, and you talk about the lacrosse guys.
Right.
You think about the guys that played and, and how it was. I just wish that, that when you had a success like they did, right? And enjoy it.
And you also had a chance to play with Gary Gate as opposed to against him in a couple of these teams.
Yeah, you know what? When I got the call, I went and played. I played for 1 year. Then me and Lisa moved out west for 6 years. The Foster. Marty O'Neill was putting together some guys to go to Boston. The Boston team, we were coming in, and we all ended up in Baltimore. And I got to play for 3 years, and I think Paul for 2.
Right.
Or 1.5, I think, with Paul. Having a guy on your team like that opens up so much space. He led the league in scoring, and I was fortunate enough to come second league in scoring, and it was just like a 1-2 tandem. When I got there, it was he had his role, and we just clicked off each other. It just reminded me a lot of playing with like Jeff Hartle, where we played as a 1-2 punch on the left side, and as a defensive guy, right? Playing on. So it was special playing Paul, and and John Grant Jr. and Tracy Klowski, and I could really want to do, but I don't have that long.
Well, you had a pretty good career. 93 goals, 115 assists. That's a pretty good career, I would say, even though it was shortened with a knee injury.
Yeah, it happens. And if I sit and I look at it, and I was sitting talking to my Rock, and he reminded me. He said, yeah, he goes, and I'm trying. I was looking at the record books, and he says, there's this guy that scored 5 power play goals in a game and holds the rest of those out. You. I said, come on. I said, you're kidding me. And he said, that was a long time ago, and to be please.
There you go. Now, once your career is over, you get into coaching, but you spend more time in field than you do in box. How did that happen?
I liked it. It was, for some reason, I got away from the indoor. I just got tired of being inside and out. Had the opportunity to jump on and be the Ontario field across for Ontario, and it was awesome. I'm outside, I went and started coaching field lacrosse. I don't know. I just enjoyed the fresh air a lot more than being in the arena. I think the reason was because of the injury. When I go inside a lot, I really didn't go to a lot of games. I looked at a different avenue besides coaching. The kids and that was, where I outside is where I went.
Mm-hmm. Now, you spent 9 years as the OLA VP of Field Lacrosse, and then you get elected to being the commissioner of OSL Senior B. How did that come about?
I don't know. I needed a change. from what I was doing. Time you need, and I'm all about new blood, right? You need new blood. You can only get, and then people stop listening. So you know what, you move along and take your, and and hopefully your talents elsewhere. And I was approached to become a musician. I'm glad I did. I've enjoyed it since it's been there. Unfortunately, COVID, so it did, and we never got to play. But you know what? Looking up this year in Oakville.
Yeah, that's gonna be exciting. Yeah,
as a commissioner. So
you were kind of
it was just it was a change.
Right. You were kind of baptized by fire because your first year as the commissioner, you had that crazy series in the playoffs between Owen Sound and Six Nations, and all hell broke loose. And you and your office had to step in and make a couple of really tough decisions.
Well, I don't think it was the officer. I think you know what, I laid the law down, and you know what, I'm I went and I suspended, I think it was 15 guys in total. And at that moment, it was like, there's no need, there's no room for stuff like that. And so, you know what, yeah, everybody got a little bitter at me, and I really didn't even take it upon really the OLA at the time to do that. I just did it because, but in saying that, Six Nations went on from that game, and they team after that staying.
Yeah, it was a great final too between Oakville and them. I was there at every game because I was working with some of the guys with Oakville, and that's one of some of the best games I'd seen in a long, long time. Especially, you're looking at the final game, which it looked like Oakville had it, and a massive comeback from Six Nations. And next thing you know, they're in the President's Cup.
You know what? Yeah, for sure. And you say the best team actually made it to the President's Cup, and the best team that year. And that was a conversation I had with Jeff Palace after and letting him know that that they were the best team, and they didn't need to play like that. Went on to prove that they didn't need to play that way, and ran the table.
Yeah, because I think it was that series that really showed just how dominant a player Zed Williams was. And my God, that shot that he had was just absolutely a laser. So accurate, so strong.
That was based.
And there was no answer for it.
That was based the first. No, there wasn't. Ever knew who Zed Williams was, and I'll tell you, he was something else.
Right. Well, fast forward now. We're into the Arena Lacrosse League. How did you get involved with them? And Paul St. John. We just lost Joe. The elevator didn't
I hope it wasn't because I took my medication.
Uh-oh.
I was taking. I forgot my medication, and my alarm just went off. What we're hearing, that's the 15 players removed, to talk to a commissioner about doing that, and he made it sound really cut and dry, didn't he?
Well, yeah. Well, it was a brutal series between Owen Sound and Six Nations, and these were you would say bench clearing brawls, but the brawls actually went on to the bench. And what he also did, what he didn't mention here, was that he stopped the games from being in Six Nations for the rest of that series. They had to go into Brantford and play there, and they wouldn't have any of the games there. So he basically took home field advantage out of it, and they had to go and win it in a neutral site. And they still wound up not only winning the OSL championship, but they went on to win the President's Cup that year too, which was another strange one because during that one, it was, I believe it was Angus Goodleaf who passed out. They called it heat stroke, but I believe it was a heart attack.
Yikes.
And, yeah. Well, the arenas were incredibly hot in Quebec. And so, luckily.
Well, hopefully we'll get him back.
I hope so.
I just called the producer to ensure that in case he gets back that he brings them in.
Right. Because we're just coming up on the Arena Lacrosse League, which, he is the coach of the Oshawa Outlaws this year, and they're having a phenomenal season. They're 7-3. They're tied for second place. There's a log jam in first place with the league. You have 4 teams. You have the Monarchs in Toronto. You have the Whitby Steelhawks, the Oshawa Outlaws, and the Brampton Express that have just gone to the top part. And if the weather doesn't get them, an absolute marquee game is going to be at the Memorial Arena tomorrow night, and it's the Oshawa Outlaws to face the Brampton Express.
His team,
more or less first place implications. A 14 game season. This is week 11. This has big consequences on where they're going to finish in the standings. And a few of the things that I hope we get him back, because the team that he's got is fantastic. Players like John St. John, Cam Milligan, who's had a number of stints in the NLL. Father Jim was also a guest on our show. But Cam has been back for a couple of games now in the Arena Lacrosse League with Oshawa and made a big jump. Alex Simons is there as well. Luke Leskavitz, and I got a really funny story about Luke. Is his uncle Eugene? I was at a game that in the summer, and he was playing for Brooklyn, and all of a sudden I see Gene sitting up there, and I'm looking, it's like a fish out of water. Gene and we had adjudicated music festivals for about 25 years together, and so to see him sitting there and watching lacrosse, it was like, huh? So, and as Luke was his nephew. It's like, wow, and now I see him more and more at the arenas, and then the rest of the Leskavitz family, and it's great. But that goes back many years. And they also have in net is Deacon Knott, and I brought him up on my other show quite a bit. He is Peterborough Laker lineage. He actually was a backup during 1 or 2 of the games this past summer, but he went with the Team Canada and won gold with the juniors this past summer. Fantastic goalie, really nice kid. I've been lucky enough to become friends with him, and he's been drafted to the Philadelphia Wings and is on their practice squad. So he's in the Arena Lacrosse League to stay sharp, but he is spectacular, and he's one of those kids who's never out of position. Doesn't seem to matter where, what, who. He's never out of position. It's not that he's like a Ryland Hartley where he's stretch elastic man where he's constantly doing the splits, and his positioning very cool, very calm. Just the way he goes by his day-to-day thing. Very, very laid back, very methodical, which is odd for a goalie because they're usually out there. But he very, very calm demeanor and plays that way, and has been a real boost to the team itself. And Joe and I had talked a couple of weeks back when I was at one of the games, and he should be he'll be a big miss when he does make it up to the Philadelphia Wings roster, because their goaltending has been hit and miss. So why not give him an opportunity?
And John St. John, that plays on the team, played in the NLL as well. So talent is definitely a thing there.
Absolutely, and you're looking at a number of them that are going to be heading there if they're not already earmarked for it. Josh Gilroy is another one who after 8 games got 10 goals, 23 assists. Jake Gilmore as a playmaker, 3 goals, 29 assists. Nick Andrioli, 8 goals, 9 assists. So they're getting production from everywhere. Even you're looking at their transition being strong. Zach Tompkinson, he only played 5 games, but a couple of goals, 7 assists. So there's a lot of scoring going on there. And even games that Deacon hasn't been able to make, you've had Jackson Brown and Ryan Shatowski, both excellent goalies as well. So I'm looking forward to the next excuse me, the next few weeks of arena lacrosse, because really the logjam is amazing, and it's separated with top and bottom. But you're looking, Six Nations is sitting at 4-5 right now, can play big time spoilers, and they have the guns to do it. Just a lot. What's happening with some of the lower tiered teams is sometimes having lower turnouts, so they're putting only 11 runners on the floor. I think it was Oswego that had that problem last weekend, and you put them up against Brampton, and my God, the juggernaut of the league, who's sitting at 8-2, and you have this poor team that's only got 11 runners. Well, they're going to run them to death, and that's basically what happened. They hung out. They were able to hang for a while, and then they just couldn't keep up anymore. A team like Peterborough, who has always been a decent, strong team, this year, this is an amazing story. Is when the PBLA became a league, I think 14 players were taken to the PBLA. So all of a sudden, out of a 25-man roster, you're looking at almost 2/3 of your lineup gone, and you having to find and try and gel and make things work. And they got their first win last week, and it was a special teams event. I think they had 3 goals, power play goals, and 3 shorthanded goals out of a 10-goal total. And they won 10-8 over Paris, who was also struggling with having low bench totals. So, it happens. It happens. And with the Arena Lacrosse League, you could be riding high. The NLL calls because they've got a couple of injuries, and off go 3 or 4 of your players, and it's happened in the past. I remember it a few years ago, just before COVID. Mike Burke, who's still in the NLL now, I believe he was with Whitby. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, off he went, and off a few other players went. And you took a team that was, destined for the cup, and well, that didn't happen.
I'm not used to seeing the name Peterborough in 1-9.
Yeah, it's kind of strange, isn't it? But like
That's
I say,
great.
when you lose 2/3 of your players, and
they were an expansion team, and they weren't just an expansion team. They weren't a planned expansion team. All of a sudden, they're an expansion team.
Absolutely.
It's not one of those things where they were going, okay, we got to get ready for a tough year. What can we do? It was, oh, we don't have players now.
Yeah, and you got to build.
Now what?
And try and gel, and you're trying to make things happen, and try and
everybody else has got all the players, right? The level of talent that you need. We're not talking here about replacing the bottom part of the lineup. We're talking about replacing pretty much everybody.
Yeah,
and that had to be a big challenge.
I think so, and I think it still is a challenge. And another one of our former guests, Derek Croak, is working on it. And Ray Dance is there as well. So you got great leadership, and you've got great teaching skills from these guys. But again, you're working with a piece of clay now. Now you've got to try and.
So they only played 14 games, Aaron. Sorry, Gary.
Yeah. And by the end of March, we're into the playoffs.
Yeah, and to be in the playoffs, how does that work? Like, how desperate is the situation for Peterborough? Are they just playing?
Oh, they're not going to make it. The top 4 teams are making it. And like I say, you're looking at this. Then you got 2 teams that are sitting at 8-2, and 2 teams sitting at 7-3, and then the closest one is 4-5. So I don't see any of the.
But they're not in the playoffs. 4-5 isn't going to get you in the playoffs right now.
Even if they win the last 4 games, they're 8 wins, and that would mean that everybody would have to lose, and that's impossible. So
now, what about the West? I see here in their standings they only have 4 teams.
It's only their second year. And
how are the playoffs for them?
All 4 teams, and it's going to be 1 through 4, right? 1 versus 4, 2 versus 3, and then every game is at the Langley Event Center. Everything's at the Langley Event Center, and that weekend they play all their games. That's it. But
so they're playing for position, not the playoffs.
Right, and then what they're doing is for the longest time in the West is if a guy didn't make a team, well, he hung his stick up and waited for spring before being able to play for either junior or WLA or something like that. And all winter long, if you're not playing hockey, then you're doing something else. But now with the ALL being there, and there's been such a good response that look for four teams to become 6 teams very soon, because they've had great turnouts. Their combines have been great, and hopefully they're down the road. They'll look at Alberta to go in there as well, because you've seen how that program has gone leaps and bounds now to be a strong entity. So pretty soon it'd be that. One of the things that I was talking with Paul St. John about was, now that you have the West, pretty soon we could have the ALL Man Cup edition, and have the champion of the West play the champion of the East in the best of 7 series, and go East or West for a best 3 out of 5 or best 4 out of 7, and see what happens. And I think that would be fantastic lacrosse if you have the best of the guys who are up and coming. Because if you're looking at something really great, is Brampton is their first year in. They're an expansion team, but they were able to really work well with their expansion draft. And you're talking about a guy like Gage Board, who they got from Oshawa, who in 10 games he's got 23 goals and 32 assists. Zach Sunderland, he's got 27 goals, 32 assists. Ryan Campbell, 17 goals and 36 assists. Sam Dramitsky, 12 goals, 22 assists. And even Penn Eistrat, 13 goals, 20 assists, and more of a playmaker. But whenever you need him, he's transition. He's a defenseman transition with those kind of numbers, and always seems to be in there with the game-winning things, or with the playmaking towards it. And in net, another name that was with Oshawa before is Lucas Nagy, who you can't beat him really. He's 5-0. Cam Dunkerley was also playing with them. He was 2-2, but he got signed up with back to the NLL. He's with the New York Riptide now. So again, when you have that working, and all of a sudden off they go to the NLL, that's just part of the thing. The ALL being a feeder league officially since 2018 for the NLL as a developmental thing. Their rules are on par, so that the transition is easy, and they're having major league coaching. The likes of Joe Hiltz, the likes of Derek Crow, the likes of Ray Dance, and guys like that, so that they're getting. It's designed to be for that player that needs just that little bit more seasoning before he can make it, or that player that's coming down and wants one more kick at it. And it really works well. The games are super exciting. It's a fun afternoon or evening, depending where you're going. I actually enjoy doing the Oshawa thing, because usually on a Saturday you can catch a doubleheader. You can catch a 3:00 game, go out have dinner. You can catch a 7:00 game. And it's inexpensive. Instead of paying NLL prices, you're looking at guys kind of like going to the AHL really. And for $10 or $5 for a kid, you're looking at a bargain and a half in a smaller arena. So you're right on top of the play. Again, very accessible to the fans. Usually a fair amount of lacrosse people in the crowd as well. Whether it's scouting or just enjoying an afternoon, it's a lot of fun to be out there and talk lacrosse with a lot of really, really seasoned people.
A lot of experience.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely. Lots of great.
What I wanted to ask was about Brampton. Now, right now, are they the only team in Brampton playing?
Well, at this level, yeah,
right.
We're waiting for more word about the major series ones. They have a team, they had a draft, they have players, so all systems seem to be going. Obviously, we've heard that Owen Sound has pulled out of this year. Oakville has pulled out of this year. So as far as I can see, we still have 5 teams for the MSL. It's a shame. We thought we had 7 teams and it was going to be quite the year. But the MSL and drama, they seem to go hand in hand. So I'm hoping that Brampton is able to get everything straightened away with their management crew, and with funding, and be all systems go. That we can see the maroon shirts with the old BE logo, and away they go.
Absolutely. And tell me a little bit about the Toronto Monarchs.
Toronto
Where are
Monarchs
they?
actually play out of the Toronto Rock Athletic Center. Um, excuse me. They've been one of the original teams. They've had some really good teams over the years. Most notably, you would have Craig Wendy, who played for them for a couple of seasons. Of course, goalie for Georgia. They a very very good team and very entertaining. But I say they play out of the track. So and 8-2 this year. So they got a heck of a team. You're looking at one of my favorite players, especially even when he was with the Brampton Major Series team a number of years ago, and that's Jordan Dance. Um, he always seems to be in the thick of it, and this year is no exception. He's been in the 3 stars a number of times. In 8 games, he's got 26 goals, 23 assists. With him is Parker Pfeiffer, 27 goals, 50 assists. Definitely someone to watch. Dan Williams, 20 goals, 26 assists. Henry Follows, 20 goals, 26 assists. Tanner Buck is another name that we've heard before, 12 goals, 24 assists. Patrick Corbett, 15 goals, 15 assists. And, in net, you've got Bailey Brown, who's had a stint with the NLL. Sam Haynes, who's actually the practice roster goalie for the Toronto Rock. And then a couple of Andrew Kidd, Ethan Harwood, Jackson Hayner. They're all on their roster. But Bailey Brown is getting the bulk of the work and doing a really fine job.
Well, let's talk about in the context of when I look at the teams in this league. I see a lot of the usual suspects. You've got your Toronto, you've got your Brampton, you've got Oshawa, you got Whitby, you got Six Nations. Tell me about the Paris team, and do they play out of Paris, Ontario? And
They do.
are they kind of a community that's quietly providing some really good talent?
They're a decent team, but they play a lot out of Six Nations. They play at the ILA, Iroquois Lacrosse Arena, because they're not that far from there.
Right.
And the Oswego Bears, who used to be the St. Catharines Shockwave.
Are they still in St. Catharines? Or they just changed the name?
No. They changed the name because one, they were already playing out of the Iroquois Arena, and two, most of their team was based out of there anyways. And so this past year, they decided that the team would be changed from St. Catharines to Oswego Bears. And, fabulous. Whoever designed their logo, fabulous logo. And, the team has got its home there at the Iroquois Lacrosse Arena. So,
the point I'm trying to understand, and I'm trying to get your help and for the viewers to get a better understanding. So the Iroquois Arena is one that provides a lot of teams a home base.
Yeah, well, they have 2 games on Sundays there. So you have a 2:00 and a 4:00 game, or a 2:00 and a 5:00 game every Sunday. So usually you might have 2 games in Oshawa, which are going to take care of the eastern teams, the Peterboroughs, the Oshawa team, of course, Whitby, and of course you've got the track for Toronto. You got the Iroquois Lacrosse Arena for those other 3 teams. And you've got the Millwood Arena in Peterborough that houses some of the Timberman games as well. So
yeah, the reason I ask is because of the interest in the game and the opportunity to find. It's one of the issues that we've discussed as far as not the NLL at the NLL level, because they're going more with established rinks, hockey rinks to play their games. But I was thinking more or less the different lacrosse leagues that may not have the luxury of having even an arena in their town. So right. I guess the point I'm making or asking about, there are a lot of players and a lot of teams being created strictly because of the desire and the popularity of the game, and so they end up playing 2 teams in one arena because that tells us about popularity.
Well, yeah. And the other thing is the popularity of the league in general is, remember, it started in 2016 with 6 teams.
Before.
Yeah, with just 6 teams. And now we're already up to 8 teams. Here we are 7 years later. I don't know if you can include 2 of the years because, the 20 season was canceled midway. The 21 season was gone. So just last year it came back in. And so really, out of those 7 years, 5 years that the league has been operational, and you already have 2 expansion teams and many more players that really could be in there with the PBLA going down. So if they don't come back, you're going to look at a lot of players coming in for the combine to try and fill roster spots. And this league is already very competitive and already a great tool for NLL teams to keep their practice players sharp, because remember, it's not just about having the skills. One, it's about learning to be a professional and being able to go and stay. But number 2 is that if somebody goes down, they're already in game shape and game ready, that they can go and transitionally make it an easy transition. Excuse me.
My next question about that is, financially speaking, how do they cut it financially?
Well, the players actually pay to play. I think it's something like $400 that it costs them to play, and through the fees there, and through ticket sales, is what pays for the arenas and pays for the teams. And a lot of this is the goodwill of coaching and people like myself doing the media for them is on our own time to try and help and grow the game and grow the league and get the word out and get people to know and be familiar with the players, the games, the arenas when they're played, so that it will in turn bolster some attendance and draw a little bit more attention to some of the attended games are fantastic now compared to what it was a number of years ago. So it's growing. It's growing.
Not to this isn't I'll use the term house league without it being a knock. Essentially it's players who want to play for whatever reason that is. You've stated a few. I mean, a few would like to stay in shape with the opportunity of getting an opportunity in the NLL or any other league that may pay them a little. This is another example of lacrosse players playing the game because they love it so much.
Absolutely.
It's just another example of that. And you might say this is an avenue for them to find a place to play at a level that makes it worthwhile for them to play in that league.
Right. And the other thing, with the league in its own right, is again you're looking at guys who are learning the craft of how to become a pro, which is something that is sorely lacked in most sports, because you just expect that you're good and you make it, but there's so much more to it to stay there, and how to conduct yourself, how to be that player, how to give back to the game. I know that's all a learning thing as well. When you're learning the game, you don't really pay much attention to that. But when you start seeing it, and when we talk to a lot of the legends, and we talk to a lot of the guys who got back into coaching to give back and to help and to turn to coaching because they love, giving and watching other people move forward. Here you see it at the grassroots level, and every time a player makes it, you can just you can see the smiles on everybody's faces because they had a big part to do with this. And like I say, we've had Paul on a couple of times, once talking about himself and his career and some of the Arena Lacrosse League East, and the other time when he had the West guys just before they started. And it was a fantastic brainchild. When he had the semi-professional league of CLAX, it was a different thing because the players were paid. Veltman was the general commissioner of the league, and this is a little bit different. And again, players pay to play. They're seasoned, they're coached, NLL rules, and get them ready for the next level if they can make it, and give them all the tools in their toolbox to do it.
It's really important, Gary. We're running out of time here. We started with Joe Hiltz. Unfortunately,
yeah, he dropped out.
Joe had to go. No,
I'll rebook.
Joe.
We'll talk about some of the stuff with him. So down the road a little bit, I'll get Joe back on.
Yeah, thanks for filling in all the blanks for today. Really appreciate it, Gary.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. I love this league. I've always loved this league, the Arena Lacrosse League. I have such a lot of fun going to the games, seeing the guys, and being their media guy. I love it. So, and doing their power rankings. So, absolutely, it's about everything competitively and keeping everything the way it's supposed to be. So, yeah, it really is a fun time. So, yeah.
Thanks for doing this, Gary.
My pleasure as always, Frank.
For Gary Groob and Joe Hiltz, who left us early, I am Candid Frank Stanisci. Thank you for watching NLL Lacrosse Talk, seen live Thursdays at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This show can also be heard on the Spanglish World Radio Network. For Lacrosse Talk, news, entertainment, and other sports programming we offer, please check out SpanglishWorld.ca. If and when you can find yourself at Candid Frank Stanisci 1030 on YouTube, you can check out all the shows that I do, CFL, Leafs, lacrosse, politics, news, all the fun stuff. We do it all for you. So, for Spanglish World, I want to remind you to watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you next Thursday.